Welcome to Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. Our first Reddit post is from Kindred Coca-Cola. And tried to use the "you don't need money. I'm giving you experience and exposure for some art I did for business." She got called out. Now her entire scam and life is unraveling, and while I don't like to gloat, I can't help but snicker. I originally posted my question on relationships on Monday, so for the whole backstory please click on my profile. But to drive at J by Marriage asked me to do several pieces of art for her real estate business. I'm in school and am positive I told her that I would need to be paid. I'm also positive she agreed to pay me. My major mistake for not agreeing to terms up front, but she still tried to take advantage of me. She was difficult, refused to accept drafts, then hated the finished products. I was out tons of time and money and tried to wash my hands of her. Out of the blue, she wanted me to fly out on my own dime to paint her office mural. I said I would have to get paid for previous work, and she exploded on me and told me that exposure from people like that was Monday. First thing Tuesday morning, I had a meeting with my school's licensing legal advisor, and she helped me draft a letter stating since no legal transfer of ownership had taken place and J was to cease using any of my work immediately. We also wrote up an invoice for my time, materials, and shipping up to that point with a very friendly 15 family discount, and that if Aunt J were to work out a payment plan, she could continue using the finished pieces. I emailed them to her. I was very sincerely trying to handle this like an adult and not involve my parents or my Uncle Dad's brother and Aunt J's husband, but maybe 5 hours after I pressed send on the email, my mom called me. It basically went like this. Mom, Aunt J just called and completely chewed me out over what an ungrateful brat you are. What's going on? I explained the situation to her and apologized because I really was trying to handle it myself. She was apoplectic mad and revealed to me that Aunt J had been pulling this kind of bullshit ever since she married my uncle. Mom really wished I would have called when this first started, and she would have advised to me avoid ever doing anything with her. I said I was sorry that I was in so deep. My mom asked if it was ok if she got involved. I said that was ok. Aunt J got her real estate license last fall and had been telling my uncle that she was a lot to be a franchisee, or whatever you call it in real estate, for a nationwide real estate company. I'll just say Promax. My mom called a local Promax office and asked who she should talk to because one of their agents had commissioned several thousands of dollars worth of professional promotional materials and was refusing to pay. She was put on the phone with whoever was the highest-ranking agent in my hometown, who was incredibly confused because all the local offices were under his guidance and they had a promotional materials contract with a local graphic design company. My mom gave him Aunt J's name, and holy shit, Aunt J was using this multi-million-dollar real estate company's name and materials when she wasn't even part of the company. I mean, this is a huge deal and she could literally be facing years of legal trouble, and since real estate licensing is a fairly small world in our state, she is almost certainly going to lose her license if Promax pursues her. I honestly don't know enough about real estate to know how or even if she was making this work. I have no idea. Maybe her scam wouldn't have been figured out if she'd just paid me. But it gets even deeper than this. Aunt J had just bought a huge new Cadillac Escalade over Christmas, and since she said it was for work, she told my uncle that Promax was helping her finance it. My dad called my uncle his brother to let him know what my mom had found out as a heads up. My uncle freaked out because obviously if she wasn't part of Promax, then she wasn't getting generous financing terms from Promax on her new $80,000 car. My uncle ran his credit, and it looks like Aunt J had taken out 2 credit cards in his name and maxed them out thanks for the down payment on this car. So not only was Aunt J screwing me over, she was in a roundabout way stealing using the established name of a multi-million-dollar company. But she committed identity theft against her own husband too. And now she's been exposed because she refused to pay me. My uncle told my dad that he's known that last straw has been coming for a long time, and this was a last log. He's contacting divorce attorneys immediately in hopes he doesn't get taken down in case Promax decides to pursue real legal action against her. He's going to have the lawyer advise him on what to do about the identity theft. Basically, Aunt Jay is screwed in every way imaginable. I've never been one to gloat, and I always take pity on people who are having a hard time. I'm not this time. This comment is from Rysonfurin, from one artist to another. If a client is big enough to get you any useful exposure, they can 100% afford to pay you. If they can't afford to pay you, fire probably not significant enough that exposure would even do you any good. If they can afford to pay you but choose not to, fire an asshole anyways, and you're better off saving your sanity. This comment is from Amphupir. My mother said, never lend anything you wouldn't give. The only time exposure worked for me was a gent I was happy to give my labor to, and it's the one time it turned out to be lending until the money came in. Most of the rest, as you observe, bully you into giving under pretense of lending. This comment is from Seegerdan3. Another tip from an artist: never ever work for a fixed fee. Instead, tell people, this looks like X hours, I charge Y rate, which comes out to Z. Then, when not if, clients change their mind, you don't have to be the bad cop and say, sorry, that's out of scope, over budget. Instead, you say, great, that's clearly X more hours, I'd love to help with that. It's really the only way for clients to respect your time. In my 20 years of running a business, this is the best advice I can give you. Now, a word from today's sponsor. Surfshark is an all-around VPN solution that can do everything from torrenting as well as streaming to browsing the dark web. Surfshark is one of the very best all-round VPN, terrific for Netflix, torrenting, confidential browsing, as well as staying safe on public Wi-Fi. Check out Surfshark today, link is in the description. Now back to the video. Our next Reddit post is from Merc35802. Senior manager gets me fired. I turn things around and get her job and salary, plus see her breakdown and then let her know exactly how I got my revenge. I was hired by a company as an assistant manager, a job I was well qualified for. The owner is rarely on site as he owns several businesses. The company is run by a GM who hired me, but who works mostly second shift, and who I therefore would have little daily contact with since I was hired for first shift. I was assigned to Eva for training. Eva was a manager and had been with the company 5 years. I trained with her for a few days, and then I was on my own, though she and I had overlapping shifts and would see each other a few days a week. We were friendly but not close. After a few months I was doing well at my job. Eva began to act resentful. She would correct me for small things and took any opportunity to remind me that she had trained me. It didn't matter to me, she wasn't my boss. I reported to the GM, so I mostly just ignored her. What I didn't know was that Eva was not just tight with the GM, but they had worked together at another place for 10 years before this one. One day at shift end, GM asks to talk, tells me it's not working out. I ask for examples. A few of them were petty matters Eva had mentioned, but most of them were just not true. I tried to argue, but it was clear that I was set up. I decided to reach out to the owner since I had nothing to lose. He was sympathetic but said he relies on GM to run the business and had to support her decision. Then he mentioned that if things hadn't been so bad between me and Eva, it probably could have been worked out. That's when I knew she was behind me being fired from a job I needed, really liked, and was making great money. And I vowed to get revenge. I started searching her online info. In less than an hour, I had uncovered gold thanks to one of those pay services. About 3 months prior, Eva was arrested and charged with DWI in a neighboring state. The court records showed she had a hearing coming up in a few weeks. That was enough to get her fired. It affects a professional license she and I had to have as management. Per state law, license holders must report criminal charges to the licensing board, and in the case of a DWI arrest, licenses are typically suspended pending trial. I called the owner and told him what I discovered. It was news to him. I guess since it was out of state, Eva was keeping it secret. Maybe she was hoping to get let off the charges. The next day, the owner called and said Eva was fired. He thanked me for telling him about her DWI, apologized for how I was fired, and offered me Eva's position and salary. He asked me to come in the next morning to meet with him and to cover Eva's shift. I accepted. That alone was sweetly satisfying revenge, but what happened next was the icing on the cake. I got to work extra early, met with owner and GM, and we all agreed to start fresh. Cool. It was still an hour before opening, and I was in the back of the place when I heard the front door chime. When I came out a few minutes later, Eva was there, tears flowing, begging the owner for her job back. She obviously didn't know I was there, because when she saw me, her whole body seized, and her shocked expression was priceless. I walked right by her, staring her down with a shitty grin, and went outside. Eva came out a minute later and wouldn't make eye contact. As she walked away, I said, "Good luck on the 23rd. That was her court date. This comment is from Drone197. They may be cool now, but it'd be wary. Keep an eye out for more shenanigans. This comment is from Dubalicious69. Agreed, Opgot's mate of over 10 years sacked. If GM is anything like Eva, they'll be trying to pull more shit in the future." Edit: a lot of people getting upset in the comments because this story apparently isn't true. I don't know if it is or isn't, I don't particularly care. I made a comment based on the information available to me. This comment is from Don132. Just remember, you're still working for the guy who didn't care about you until he needed you bad. That was Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. If you like this content, please subscribe and click the bell icon so you are notified of new uploads. We upload new videos every day. Also subscribe to our Patreon, as that will help us a lot. See you next time.